Hi, I'm Nayara. I'm a teacher of Portuguese language and Brazilian literature in Bahia State System. I'll share a bit about my work with reading Brazilian literary classics using digital genres. Well, the genre I chose to do this project was the commented playlist. Why? It came from observing the class interests. The students in the class where this project was done love music and create many playlists on the Spotify platform. Then I thought, how can I associate students' interest and the curricular requirements? My goal was to work with argumentative and reading skills, having Brazilian literature classics as a starting point. I chose the classic Dom Casmurro to work with my class, and to develop this work, I used the digital genre commented playlist. What did I do first? The first step was to think of a literary challenge to engage the class. Exactly. The challenge would foster motivation and bring the class on board for the reading of this classic. I launched the following challenge. What if Capitu, the character from Dom Casmurro, had a playlist on Spotify? What songs would she listen to? Create a playlist with at least 6 songs that dialogue with the character from the Machadian book. This was a challenge the students should complete by reading the classic. It will require a series of reading and argumentative skills, since the genre commented playlist assumes the students write a text justifying their choices. So after launching the challenge, the next step was organizing the teams and creating the reading guides. I always enjoy working in groups, so they do collaborative activities, think, discuss, and create together. After assembling the groups, I organized the guides. The guides are supposed to lead the way in the reading. This way, I could mediate so that they would observe important aspects in the reading, as well as information that many times goes unnoticed by readers. Other than that, with the reading guides, I could also collect some data, information that helped me to personalize the classroom activities, the debates, construction and elaboration of products that were made while discussing the narrative. After that, the students created their playlist, wrote their justification, and at last presented it to the entire class, sharing their songs and discussing essential matters of the book coming from the analyzed character.
This masterclass will talk about how I use digital technologies so that my high school students can discover who they are and what it means to be creative by combining art with my physics curriculum. My name is Ian Fogerty. I teach chemistry, physics, and math to 16 to 18-year-olds at Riverview High School. It's a public school on the east coast of Canada. My students find comfort in wearing an identity of STEM and are very good at finding quick answers to tests and analyzing the results of a lab. However, they tend to get anxious when they live on the edge of the unknown, so we do year-long art projects that challenge their ideas of STEM and creativity. Tip number 1. Teach kids who are in front of you today, not content from the past. DNART is a wall panel of LED rings that represents a short portion of DNA. Motion sensors capture the movement of students as they walk down the hall and causes the light to scroll along a DNA sequence of insulin. Leo is an intelligent interactive light sculpture that mimics human emotion when it is triggered by human presence. Each of these require coding, electrical engineering, light and color, echolocation, along with laser cutting and 3D printing. These high-tech tools make students feel innovative, that they are doing something new, unique, and special, that you're teaching them today. Tip number 2. Technology helps students collaborate and create. As a teacher, I purposely build ample chances for students to make decisions as a group and have creative freedom. During the pandemic, half of my students were at home while the others were face-to-face. Video conferencing and shared collaborative documents let students offer suggestions, evaluate, and then make decisions. At first, the students were quick to move at their first possible solution, but as a teacher, I need to have a careful process to slow them down to review. The digital technology meant we could remind ourselves of our thinking and decide if we still thought the same way. The isolation of the pandemic showed us how important it is for students to build community. Tip number 3 is to bring students together in a meaningful way. In the art projects, I would break up students into expert groups, so that some became expert solderers, others focused on designing the parts, or perhaps working on the code. Having all the information in one shared location and connecting them all together with a live once-a-week meeting meant that the builders could make suggestions to the people designing the shape of the parts and give feedback to the coders, even when students were gathered around the building or around town. Tip number 4, bring the outside world in. Many times, local experts are willing to mentor a new generation, but they do have their own responsibilities. Using video conferencing and asynchronous tech, guest experts can interact with students without giving up a whole day of work. We purposely have our weekly meetings at lunch so that our guests can attend during their lunchtime and not miss work. Technology brings the outside world into the classroom so they can follow their creative paths. I work hard to understand how each tool will impact how students interact with the world and with each other. Effective pedagogies in the digital world begins with a deep understanding of the learning tasks and then using a whole variety of tools for the right job.
Hi, I'm Steve Auslander. I am an elementary technology teacher in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the United States. I'm a Kahoot ambassador and a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, and I'm excited to tell you guys about how I build community using connected Kahooting. Connected Kahooting means when multiple classes or multiple students, or even families in this case, play a Kahoot game at the same time together to build community. So I've been doing that for many years. I was a former Skype master teacher and a Microsoft Global Learning mentor, where my passion was to connect kids with other kids around the world to teach them how much they all have in common. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, the world turned upside down. And I felt like it was my duty to figure out a way to get kids from my school to connect with other kids from my school so they had that sense of normalcy. So I created Family Kahoot Friday, where I wanted families from my school to play together as a family with other families from my school to play some Kahoot games together. And I advertised it on Facebook, and before I knew it, it wasn't just families from my school who wanted to play, but families from pretty much all over the country. So I opened it up to families from all over the country to play Family Kahoot Friday, where again, families would get together and they would play a Kahoot as a team with other families live at the same time. And what I found was, if I made some questions that the kids would know about Minecraft and Taylor Swift and things like that, and some questions that maybe the parents might know, then they really needed each other to do well. And it was an amazing thing. And before you knew it, it kind of started to grow and grow. And Kahoot heard about it and they asked me to write a blog post about it, and I did. And then magic happened. I started getting emails from all over the world asking me questions about Family Kahoot Fridays because these educators from around the world wanted to do it in their schools. That told me there's a need for this. So I did Family Kahoot Friday every Friday from March until July. Then January of 2021, our school went virtual once again. So I brought back Family Kahoot Friday and I made it just for my school district. I promoted it on social media and posted the link for the actual event because I made it a webinar. As a webinar, there's extra security features. Participants can't turn on their camera. They can't unmute themselves, so it's a little bit safer. I had various teachers from my district join me as panelists, so they were co-hosts, and we split up some of the tasks and made it a little bit easier for me. Highly encourage you to do having panelists on your webinars, should you go that route. My favorite part was when we did a Black History Month themed webinar for Family Kahoot, and a lot of the parents commented how they were so impressed by how much our district taught Black history to their students. A Family Kahoot Friday, not only is it a fun community building activity, it's a great way to highlight all the learning that the kids are doing and a way to show students that what they're learning is relevant, because a lot of times the adults know it as well and can help them. And here's a pro tip. This is very, very important. If your game is not going to be a webinar, so webinars have higher security features. If it's going to be a regular Zoom or Teams call, you have to create a Google or Microsoft form to have families register and make sure that they put their email address 2 different times in case there's a typo. And what I do is, once they register, about an hour or 2 hours before the game would begin, I would email families the Zoom or the Teams link to make sure that the game was safe. Here's another pro tip. If you do a district-wide Kahoot, in the nicknames, make sure that you tell the families to make their team name their family name. And if it's a district-wide one, make their family name followed by the abbreviation of their school. It helps keeping track of the leaderboard after each round. Here are some more tips. Make sure you know the ins and outs of your web conferencing system and that you know all the settings really well so you can mute and unmute. And also make sure you know the maximum number of participants who can be on a call at once. Make sure you know the difference between a regular call and a webinar and what fits your needs best. Feel free to use one of my games. So if you go to the Kahoot website and search in the filter for Family Kahoot Friday, you can use any of my Family Kahoot Friday games. They are public. Feel free to make a copy and use them with your community. Once again, I am Steve Auslander. Follow me on Twitter. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions or if you want to share how you are building community with Family Kahoots in your community. Take care, everyone.